What's going on, everyone? Steven here. Today I got a new episode of WebHackery for you. In this one we're going to be taking a deep dive into an API called MutationObserver. And with this MutationObserver API, you can observe mutations happening on the page. So a mutation is basically just a fancy word to say change. So any changes that happen that you specifically are observing, you can then do things as a result of a change occurring. All right. So show you how that's handy. Let's see. So basically here we have Instagram, and let's say I don't want to sign up for an Instagram account. So here I've landed on this page. I want to scroll down and see all the images that I want to see, videos, whatever. Boom, I get hit with this modal to sign up. Right, so what we're going to do is get rid of this. I'm going to refresh the page here. We're going to get rid of this footer down here. And so that's going to allow us to scroll on this page as if we had an account. But then we're also going to do a little something where, let's say we want the full-sized image. Right, so here if we click like normal, we get this image. We can't just right-click here and open and whatever. So we want to make it to where if we do a middle mouse click or the mouse wheel, if you click that, we want it to open in a new tab as just the full-sized image, right? And that will also work for videos. But so that's a few different things that we want to do. And then with the mutation observer, I'll show you why we want that and how integrating that will make our lives easier. So this is going to get pretty advanced, so let's just go ahead and dive on in. Alright, so first of all, DevTools, bring it up, F12 on your keyboard or function F12 if you're on a Mac. And I'm not going to delve too much into some of the small stuff like targeting because I've addressed that in previous videos. I'll leave links to stuff in the description below and link to a couple of things throughout the video if, you know, a lot of this is just completely over your head. So the first thing that we want to do is I've created a JS file here called WebHackery Mutation Observer, and I will upload this to my GitHub, which I'll have a link to in the description as well. I'm using Sublime Text to do this in, but you can use any text editor you want or IDE like VS Code. But whenever you actually save a file like here in Sublime, I save it as a JavaScript file with the .js. Then whenever I do something like I want to write a function, D's, whatever, comment, you can see everything's formatted nicely. Okay, so that's why it can be beneficial for you to go ahead and do that. All right, so now that we've got that set up, the first thing that we want to do is nix sign up footer, and then nix the sign up modal, and finally we want to have big images. All right, and then we want code to persist. That's going to be where the mutation observer comes into play. So I've already done a lot of this coding and targeting. I'm not going to waste time like targeting stuff. We'll do one thing and then you know, we'll just copy in the rest that I've already written because there's no reason to belabor those points. All right, so right here, let's go ahead and get rid of this footer. What we can do is click on the inspect here and, you know, highlight the thing that we want to inspect. Or instead of doing that, you can just kind of right-click on the thing you want to inspect and choose Inspect. And here we're taken to this. If we right-click on that and go Delete Element, boom, we see it's gone. I'm going to hit Control-Z. That brings it back. So we know that this is what we want to target. And as we can see, this class name is something like really random and gobbledygook. And this is because of something called styled components. And basically in modern-day web development, there are ways that you can stylize your components so that, you know, each component can have its own individual styles and classes applied to it, which might otherwise be in conflict with other things on the page. But so basically you end up with everything having its own sort of unique class name, which to us is randomized. But anyway, so whenever you see stuff like this, it doesn't necessarily mean it's like obfuscation or anything like that. It might just be like a styled component kind of thing. But what this means is that we can't just target this element with this class. I mean, we can, but whenever Instagram does like a new build, maybe these class names become some other randomized thing instead of what it is with this particular build of the web app. So we can't just target this class. That won't necessarily give us the persistence that we want. So then what we need to do is basically drill down to this element from the first unique identifiable element that's easy for us to get. All right, so if we go up the tree here, we see here's a div, here's a div, 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 div. And then boom, this nav right here. This is like the first thing that we can target. So here in Chrome, we can do $, which is a mnemonic for document.querySelector_all. And we can look for nav and see how many navs we have here. And once you run that and expand it down, you can hover over these to see what on the page each of these results happens to be. Okay. And so now if we wanted to actually target just this particular nav, we see that there are 2. You could do some testing to find out are there more than 2, whatever. So you have a couple of options here because we know this first nav is the one that we are not interested in. Okay. I'm sorry, it is the one that we're interested in because we're going to be drilling down into here. We could say the 0th index item of the result, which is going to give us that directly. Or we could do document.querySelector, which is going to select the first thing it finds of whatever you're searching for and return that. Okay, so document.querySelector_all will give you everything that it sees on the page. QuerySelector will just return the first of those. Okay, so it's kind of up to you how you want to target it, but once you start doing that, then you can actually like drill down. But what we could do now is we could actually say document query selector all, because what we want to do is drill down from there into child divs. So we could do something like this, and when we hit enter, we've got a couple of results here, and if we hover over them, we can see what these results are. We can look at the class name here, div dot, and then this is a class name, xajnb. If we look at our nav and look at these 2 divs underneath, xajnb, so we are traversing down the first result of these, okay? And so then what we want to do is, this is where you might want to study your whatever site you're targeting, because with Instagram, if you're not, I think it's if you're not logged in, it's either that and a particular condition or just this other condition. But long story short, when I was first trying this signed in to my Instagram account, there was a 3rd div underneath this nav. So we want to always target the last div, because that's the one that, you know, will end up drilling down into where we want to be, which is to this footer, right? So because of that, you know, instead of just saying this and then 1, which is the second result inside of that, right? Instead of that, what happens if we run this and there are 3 divs there, right? We'll have 0, 1, and then 2. And if we're targeting 1, then that's going to give us the wrong div. So what we can do is just, we can do a little trick where we convert this to an actual array. Just do that. And then we can use array methods like pop, which will take the last result, or whatever the last indexed item is in your set, and it will return that. Okay, it's the same as if you wanted to try something like if we had these results and then we went -1, because in some languages you can do this to reference the last item in the array, but we can't do that here, so we can use pop as a little trick for that. So anyway, this back here, .pop. All right, boom, we got that, and then we are just drilling farther down into where we want to be, right? LZ, let's see, 8MQ, whatever, boom, it's this one, and then we're just going to keep on drilling down. So finally what we can do is, before I just copy and paste what I had already done, once we've got the pop in, okay, that gives us this underscore 8MQ, which is this result. Now we want this div, so if we collapse that div, we see there's only one div here. And again, you could try logged in, you can try in different scenarios to see how your targeting will work, but we can use a little something called first element child, okay? And with that, excuse me, once we hit enter, boom, this is the first element child. Then inside of that, we've got one div, so we could append again first element child. This is where jQuery is a lot prettier because it gives us more options to do these same things with less code and, you know, a more concise statement. But whatever, I mean, it is what it is. Worst case here, we're just going to look at a long, unwieldy scenario. But once we do all that, we'll end up with this, okay? I'm going to get rid of that for now. Okay, so document, query selector all, nav, and then underneath that, the div, then we're going to do the pop to give us the last one. And then we just drill down. Boom. See in the footer highlighting down there? That's what we want. So, perfect. We've got that. So that gives us our footer, and now what we could do is, like, I'm actually going to, well, let me paste what I had here. All right, I'm assigning that to footer. All right, so once we do that, we have this variable footer that, you know, is a reference to what this is. And so what we could do then is footer.remove, and as you can see here in DevTools, whatever properties or methods are available to you as you type, it will show you those here. So we could start typing remove, and, you know, it's here. So we just hit enter, and then that's a method. So boom, when we hit that, it's gone. No more footer. All right, so that gives us the first piece that we need there. Right, we found the footer, we know what we want to do with it. So nix the sign up footer, that's done. Nix the sign up modal. All right, what I'm going to do for this real quick is, yeah, before we do that, so what you would want to do now basically is copy what you've got here, your footer. Okay, that's the element that you're going to be targeting, and then footer.remove is what you'll run when you want to get rid of it. Okay, so we can save that. All right, so for the sign up modal, I'm going to blaze through that one. We're going to clear the console here, get rid of that. Let's scroll down and make the modal pop up. Boom, there's the modal. Okay, two things to observe. We can't scroll around anymore. Okay, and then we've got this modal here, and everything's grayed out. So let's just go ahead and click this, and we'll hover over this whole area. And look at this last div here with a role of presentation, which has to do with accessibility, which is a whole other topic. But with this, if we delete that element, boom, it's gone, but we still can't scroll around. And with previous videos that I'll link, I'll show you that there are very, very common things that get done whenever this happens. Basically, there's something called overflow, and with the body of the entire page, overflow of hidden will typically be set. So if we go visible, boom, there's our scroll bar, it's back. We can scroll around, it keeps loading, and the modal never comes back, the sign up never comes back unless we refresh the page. So, all right, that's the two things we need to get done. We need to change this body style back to visible, the overflow, and then we need to get rid of that one div, okay? And so through that, I'm looking over here on my code off screen. So for the, let's see, sorry, just sitting here looking. Okay, anyway, what we're going to do basically is we know that there would be a modal that we needed to target and delete that. And then, let's see, so we would target the body here. And then once we found the body, okay, from that point, let me refresh the page here. We're going to get rid of this, sign up modal, delete element. Okay, so from the body, we can reference two things. We know that the body has that style applied to it with the modal. Boom, right? When the modal pops up, this style gets applied. So we get a reference to the body because we can do stuff with the style. And also, the last child underneath the body ends up being this div. Okay? And so with those two things in mind, our sort of jumping off point will be getting a reference to the body. Okay? And then what we can do is, I'm going to copy in a couple of things here with the modal. All right, so here we have is hidden is a variable I create. And so once we get a reference to the body, let's just do it here so that you can see it. Okay, so we get a reference to body and we assign that to a variable called body. All right, and now what we can do is something like body.style, right? And see how I'm typing and it's popping up here. Style is basically your jumping off point to applying CSS styles to whatever element. Okay, and then whatever type of style is available. Look at this huge list that we can choose from, right? And we know that it's the overflow style that gets changed. Oops. So overflow, and then we're going to do equals, and then we tell it what we want it to be. Overflow visible. Boom. We've got the scroll bar back, and even with that modal there, we can still scroll around. All right, and so then with this here, we don't just want to target the last element child, because if the modal is not there, what is the last child of, oops, what is the last child of the body? It's still a div, but it's this other thing. And so if we just got rid of it, we would presumably keep getting rid of whatever last child, and we don't want to do that. So we know that once the modal pops up, boom, here is the appended div, and it has a role of presentation. So we can get the attribute from the last child, right? Get the role attribute. This can be whatever you want. It could be href or whatever other attribute, class, ID, whatever you want, right? So here, this role attribute, we're going to reference body, get the last child, get its attribute of role, and if it is equal to presentation, right? Because this has a role of presentation. Okay, this is a ternary operator. You can look that up. So basically, this is a sort of shorthand if statement, this whole thing, right? So let me just expand this out. All right, get that attribute. If it's equal to presentation, set this to true. Has modal will equal true. Otherwise, set it to false. This will have a value of false, right? So if the page has a modal, or if is hidden is true. So if the overflow style is hidden, right, then this will just evaluate to true or false, right? So basically, I don't even think we need to do this. Just do the same thing here. Get attribute, role. All right, if it equals presentation, that'll be true. Yeah, I didn't even need to do the ternary. That was probably left over from whenever I did this late at night. Anyway, okay, so now that we have that, we've got our footer, we've got the body, and then what we would want to do is, you know, if is hidden. So if that is true, then what we would want to do is body.lastElementChild.overflow. Let's see, I'm sorry. If is hidden, body.style.overflow equals visible. All right. And then we could say if has modal. So if the modal is present, then what we could do is body.lastElementChild.remove, because we know that the last child is the one we're interested in that has this role, so we can remove that last child and everything should be golden, right? Okay, boom. So that's those big things out of the way. All right. So this is all, trust me, it's all going to come together. It might look a little messy right now, but it's all going to come together. So basically, now that we have that, we need to do the stuff with our big images, right? So let's refresh this. Let's see how Instagram works. Let's inspect this row of images, okay? And look what we have here. When we hover over this, we see one row there. If we hover over this, we see the row beneath that. Let's close this. Here's the third row. Now it looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more rows that we can't see right now. Let's scroll down here, and as I scroll down and it keeps loading images, let's see what happens throughout this section. Okay, more are loaded. More are loaded, and then we get the modal. Let's get rid of the modal. Delete element. Visible. Okay, let's keep scrolling and let's see what happens to this list. Alright, so a couple went away. A couple more went away. Now there's some appended. 1 is gone, 2 are gone. So we never get any more than, you know, whatever this ends up being. Okay, and this is a good optimization thing. So basically, as the user, as we're using the page over here, we think we have every image available to us that we've already scrolled through and seen. But let's say this page had like tens of thousands of images. As you're scrolling down, all those images and resources sitting in memory is no good, right? So it looks like they are managing that quite well. Unfortunately, what this means for us is once we do a thing where we target one of these images because we want to change it to where it's going to show us the large image, as we scroll down and it unloads stuff that we already did stuff to, the thing that we did is going to go away. And as new ones pop up, we're going to have to keep running our change, our function, whatever we do, over and over again manually as new things are loaded. That's where the mutation observer is going to come into play. It's going to watch the page for us, and anytime this stuff loads or changes, it's going to do what we want it to do immediately. Okay. So now that we've got that, I am just going to the first thing that we would want to do, okay, is now let's say these things could be grouped together into a function we run that's called login check. Okay, and that login check is going to check for the footer, the modal, the scroll bar, all that stuff. Okay, and so what I'm going to do here is copy in that function that I already have written. All right, login check. And as you can see, all the variables that I have set, it checks for the footer, it checks for if is hidden and has modal, which, you know, this, you could argue this needs to be tweaked a little bit differently to not check for both. Anyway, whatever. So, you know, if these conditions are satisfied, those things are removed. We're going to be using this in a little bit. Okay. So with the images, all right, I'll leave that to you to figure out how you would want to go about, you know, targeting. If you want to dig in and not really read through what I've done, pause the video, go through and try to figure out how you would make these images, like if you middle clicked or left clicked and did open a new tab, how you would show the full size of that image. Okay, so you can go do that now if you want. Otherwise, basically what I did is I found that if you apply this to the end of an Instagram.com link that has a /p/ and then a unique hash. So if we hover over this image, we see here in this a href/p/b4 blah blah blah. Like if you append onto the end of that this media whatever, that will send with this query parameter, it gets sent off to the server and it'll give us the large size of the image. Okay. So basically with this function, what I'm doing is I'm getting all links on the page, okay, and then assigning that to a variable called link list. And then within the link list, I just loop through. So for each link inside of link list, all right, so when it sees one result, first thing I'm going to do is get the attribute of that link. So I'm going to get the href attribute in particular. And then I'm going to check that attribute and see if it starts with /p/. Because if we run this here, okay, we've got 61 links it sees right now. And if we drill down into that, actually if we did this, well, we kind of want to do this. Let's just go copy, paste, all right, for each link. And then what we'll do is, crap, I didn't want to do that. I meant to hit Shift Enter. Let's just do this, refresh. Okay, I am going to clear that, and then we'll get link attribute, and then we will go, damn it, console.log link attribute. Okay, so if we do this and we go relink, all right, this is returning the href attribute. So this here, you know, that's the link that actually, you know, that you go to if you click or whatever. This is the href for every link on the page. Well, we're only interested in modifying the ones that are with the pictures specifically, right? So with these, if we're looking for links that start with /p/, we know that the only links we're going to modify on this page safely are the ones that we're interested in with the pictures. Okay, so that's why I'm doing this check here. If it starts with that, then what we're going to do is create a formatted link, which is going to be instagram.com/ whatever the picture link is, and then with this, you know, /media/size query parameter here. All right. And then once it does that, it is going to set. So here you have get attribute, where you can get any attribute you want. Set attribute is the same thing. You can set whatever attribute you want. You define that here, and then whatever you want to set it as. That's your second parameter. Okay, so then we're basically modifying each link to be a link to the full-sized image. So if I refresh this, let's just come back here. We're going to keep this as is. Also have a little console log thing going here. If we do this and then we run relink now, okay, look at all the stuff that popped up in the console. That's this stuff here. All right, now if I hover, you can see in the bottom left-hand side, it's probably impossibly small for you to see on like a mobile device or something. But here in the href, you can see instead of just that hash, we have a fully formatted link with our stuff applied here. So if I middle click with the mouse, which opens that link in a new tab, boom, we have the full size image. Or we can right click and go open link in new tab, same thing. Or if we left click like normal, we get the normal functionality that we expect. So that's pretty handy. And now if we middle click on this image, which is a video, we get to see that image. So maybe you want to save an image you see that was a thumbnail from a video. There you have that. Right, and what this does down here with this console log I have going, what you can do is hover over this and see which image is the one that, you know, this link is for. Because like if you're this far down and you're like, well shit, which image is this? You might have to scroll down and figure that out. But anyway, this has its own little issues because as these particular nodes unload and reload, this suddenly won't work. So whatever, it's okay. All right, and then you can click a link from within the console and it'll take you there. So that's just a fun little nice to have if you want it. All right, so there we have our login check. We have our relink. Let's refresh here. Let's scroll down. Boom, we get that. Let's copy login check, paste it here, enter, and we'll run login check. All right, boom, we're good to go. All right, so now that we've got our functions, we are ready for our mutation observer. And this can be a really confusing thing initially. So when I first started looking into this stuff, it was very, very confusing to me. Okay, we're going to take the example that they have here, right? You could look through this example and try to make heads and tails of it. I'm going to do a much simpler version than this. Okay, this is done in a fashion that everything, this is actually basically how you would want to do it, because this makes it easier to test. It makes it easier to make certain modifications. It's just a better way to program this, but we're going to kind of just lump a lot of things together. I think it looks more readable initially for people who are new. Okay, so basically a mutation observer watches something on the page, and when a change is observed, whatever you want to happen will happen. So let's say we scroll down and a new row of images loads. What do we want to happen? We want to have our relink function fire. All right, so to do that, what we can do is, first we have to define what's called a callback function, and this is in our want code to persist section. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste this with the comments I've written. Callback function, which will run when changes are observed. So this is basically just a function you define, and when it needs to run after something happens, then this function will run, right? It'll do whatever you want it to do. Okay, so this callback function is necessary for Mutation Observer. I'm calling it image load, and we're passing in the mutations that are observed. Okay, and of those mutations, we're going to do a loop here. So for each mutation that's inside of this collection of mutations, if the property type, so if that mutation's type is child list, which I'll show you what that is in a little bit, then we're going to fire the function relink. Okay, so we're kind of approaching this from a backwards perspective here. Okay, we've got the code that we want to run. We're creating the callback function, which will fire the function we're interested in running after it sorts through the mutations and it sees that, yes, this is a type of mutation that you've defined. Right? So the next thing that we want here is the node or element that we want to be observed. So for the image stuff here, okay, we want this element to be observed. And what is this element? If we copy and we paste here, okay, what is that? Right, that is the container. If we do this here, we hover over it, right, that's this container, this flex direction. Okay, so this is the element we want to observe changes of basically a type of child list. So the list of children underneath this element, if there are any changes to those children, that's when we want, that's the type of change that we're observing. Okay, so child list is one that, if we look at Mutation Observer here, you see this config. We've got attributes set to true, child list true, subtree true. One of these three has to be observed for this to work. Okay, it has to be an attribute or a child or something of subtree. Now there are other things that you can put in here for a config, but you just need to have one of these be true. So you've got one of these three to immediately choose from. So an attribute would be like, I want to watch the body, okay, and if the style attribute changes, boom, that will trigger our mutation event. Okay, child list is like I was saying, if it's a child beneath an element we're watching. Okay, so what that means is we can't be like form, like say I watch this particular node or this element. If I'm watching that and then child list is what I'm interested in, it's not going to watch all the way down here. It's only going to look at children, things directly beneath it. Okay, so that's an important distinction. Subtree is the one that you would want to delve a little deeper into, but we're not going to worry about that for the moment. We're interested in attributes and child list. So, sorry I'm belaboring the point, but I just want to make sure that people who are really new to this understand at least what this is doing. So, we've got the code that we want to happen when a mutation is observed. We've got the node or element that we want to observe, right, which is that one parent. Okay, and finally what we need to do is create a new instance of MutationObserver. Okay, so that's the new keyword, which if you don't know what that stuff is, look it up. It has to do with classes. There's a lot to unpack there, but long story short, MutationObserver is something that we can create this new instance of, and we're going to pass directly to it the callback function. Okay, and that is what's going to run when a mutation is observed. But we have this .observe method, and that's the thing that we need to call to enable the observer to start observing, right? So we could just define as ImageObserver this new instance here, but it's not going to start doing anything yet. It'll exist in memory, but we need to tell it to start observing or stop observing. We've got a disconnect. We'll use that in a little bit, right? So when we start observing, okay, what have we done here? We're creating a variable called ImageObserver. We're creating a new instance of MutationObserver, and we're passing it our callback function. So this is what, when a mutation happens, it's going to go through them all and see if the mutation type is what we're interested in, which is child list. If it is, it's going to relink. Okay, but by this point, we haven't told it which node to observe yet, and we haven't told it to start observing, like what exactly to observe. So that's what we're going to do with .observe. The first parameter is the node that we want it to observe. The second parameter is the type of observation that we want to watch for, which is child list. Okay, so once we run this line, okay, and just so you can see, this line here is broken into multiple parts here. Okay, I'm passing this object here with just the one thing, child list, right? They've got it broken out into config, and they've got multiple things, right, that they've set to true to watch for, and that config ends up getting passed here along with their node. So all this, it does the same thing, it reads differently, right? So more complex things that you want to observe for multiple things, this stuff can get really unwieldy looking. But anyway, so we have our image load callback. We've got the node we want to watch, we've got the observer that fires here, and this will start observing what we want to observe. And then once a change happens, this will fire and run what we want it to run. Okay, so we haven't done anything with login check yet. This is purely just for the image load stuff. So if we copy this, we come into here, clear it, refresh, all that, paste into here, boom. Okay, see how this is still, hang on just a second here. See how this href is still this? It hasn't been changed, right? Whenever we first paste this in, if we want these to change before a mutation is observed, right? The page loaded, nothing's going to change yet until we scroll around or whatever. But whenever the page finishes loading, we just need to fire this function ourselves manually, right? So actually, let me refresh this. And then when we paste it, what we can do is just beneath this, we can go relink, right? We're going to run that function ourselves. Boom. Now that we've done that, here you can see the href here, right? Those are all good, but as we scroll, I'm going to bring this out to show messages. As we scroll down, you'll see this updates, right? And as I keep on scrolling, all right, because I don't have the modal thing set up yet, which we'll do in just a second, I'm going to delete that element and then set this to visible. All right, you can scroll down however far and hover over any of these. We'll actually inspect that and look here. This is the link, right? So as we scroll around, all of our images are updating perfectly. We're not having to keep running this function manually. You would have to keep running it over and over after you load whatever on the page. Stop scrolling, come over here, relink, right? So, perfect. Now that we've done that, what I'm actually going to do is, let me look over here at my examples. So that gives us the relink stuff. Now we need to do the login check. So if we want to do that, what we need to do is have our, let me bring this in, it's the image node. We're going to watch the body. Okay. Boom, that's going to be the body because that's, we get a reference to the body, and this is in relation to the modal and the footer and all that. Then for our login observer, we're going to do this. Okay. We want it to watch the attributes with the body because we want to see when that style changes. When that style changes, we know the modal should be visible. This is where you might have to do a little bit of debugging and see if when the style attribute change happens, is the modal present yet? Like, has execution flowed to the point yet that the modal is visible, right? So you might need to do a little debugging with that. If it is, then you can just watch the body, watch for the style change, and if it's true, you can go ahead and do what you need to do, right? So once again, for the login observer, we're creating a new mutation observer, and we're passing it this mutations callback. And you might be like, what is that? Okay, so basically, this image load mutations callback, I have lumped together into a mutations callback, one overall callback that will happen anytime an observation is made. So we would need to change this img load to mutations callback. Okay, and so no matter which mutation is observed from either of these things, it's going to call that callback, okay? And this callback is going to check for the type of mutation. Is it a child list or is it attribute, okay? If it's child list, then because with this node we know that's what we're watching for, we're going to relink. Otherwise, if it's attributes, okay, we're going to run login check, all right? And login check is up here. Now, the last thing I have is this disconnect. Okay, this will disconnect your observer, so it won't be sitting there running as a process or however it's happening in the browser. Right, so this is just a point of optimization. So once we have gotten rid of the modal, once execution flows through here, we're going to disconnect that observer, and we don't need it to run anymore, right? Because what we want is done. So we're going to copy this, refresh here, clear this, paste. All right, and the last thing that we're going to want to do is manually run relink, as well as, what's the other one, login check. Because let's say we don't run our code until we're scrolled way down on the page and the modal is already popped up there. If we run this login check, boom, it'll get rid of that. Oop, cannot read property disconnect of undefined. So what is that? Okay, figured out what the issue was, and yeah, it was something really simple. So basically with this huge statement here, const login observer being this, it is the entire statement there. So me up here trying to do login observer.disconnect is the same as trying to do this. Login observer, let's say it equals that, and then dot disconnect, because this, all of this is what I have assigned to login observer, right? So trying to do login observer dot disconnect is like doing all of this and then adding dot disconnect onto that. What I need is this login observer dot disconnect, right? So basically what we need to do is split this IMG observer into that, right? So this is like the example that we have here where it splits it out into observing after defining it. So yeah, that totally makes sense. So now if I do this one, then login observer dot observe that. Okay, let me get rid of this. So now whenever I do this dot disconnect, that should work just fine. So let's come back in here, let's refresh, clear this, get rid of that. Okay, paste, enter, let's scroll down, that, and we got that. I had a debugger statement set up in there, so I'm just going to play through that. Boom, works fine. We didn't get that error here in the console, and everything is good to go. All right, I just had to pin that down. So anyway, back to what I had originally in the video. Okay, so hopefully you learned a lot here. I'm going to have this available. I'll fix the code, whatever it is that's broken, and then I might even piecemeal in, you know, a little video clip showing what the issue is after the fact. But anyway, all right. Check out some other videos that I'll have linked below, my WebHackery series, as well as a few others that have to do with this type of thing. I think you'll really enjoy it if you haven't seen them yet. So thanks so much for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.